Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole crew styling when we step out of the car. Bouncers lift the rope and the crowd goes off. 20 shots to the table, we don't even hit the bar.
Welcome back to our listeners and readers to another collaboration between the Florida International University, Ratcliffe Art and Design Incubator, and Inspicio Arts. I want to welcome in Ray Ellman.
Thank you, Maggie, and it's so good to see you again.
Likewise, Ray, always a pleasure to talk about all these interesting personas that we have in Inspicio and that we're sharing now with, the rest of our community. So I want to talk today about, since we are kind of in the middle of, Hispanic Heritage Month, right? It runs from September 15th through the middle of October, about Camila Gil. So she is the executive director of the Armour Dance Studio, but she doesn't really have an accent when she's talking in English, and she's originally from Bogota, Colombia. So let's talk about her journey and her love for music and how she loves getting dressed up and how it led her kind of to where, the role that she has today.
Well, when I asked Camila what was her first awareness of art, of any discipline, and she said, I don't remember a time when I didn't enjoy dressing up and performing and wearing my mom's clothes and trying to put up makeup. And I pictured her as this, everybody knows these little kids that are constantly performing. In fact, my own son has an incredible voice and a incredible sense of phrasing and whatnot. And for the time he was like 3 or 4 years old, he was singing and entertaining people. I have pictures of him surrounded by a group of gorgeous 16-year-old girls on the beach on Cape Cod, and he's singing to them. So I imagine Camila being a very similar kind of person, that she was always entertaining people, which, kind of naturally led to her eventually becoming a dancer. But what's interesting is when she moved from Bogota to Miami, her parents were constantly trying to get her involved in sports. And if you have physical abilities and coordination and whatnot, I can imagine people thinking, if you're going to have a profession in anything, and you say ballet or athlete, what's going to be more lucrative? What's going to be a better career? And I can understand people pushing people towards sports, but ballet was her love. And what's interesting is they found out about the Armour Dance Theatre. And at the age of 13, her mother brought her there. And she felt like it was like instantly like coming home for her, that she was welcomed by the artistic director and executive director at the time, who was one person. Her name was Ruth Wiesen. And she felt over time, it was almost like Ruth was a surrogate or second mother for her. They developed such a strong bond. And over time, she not only had a chance to dance in a place that was affordable for an immigrant family, but also had a chance to blossom in terms of first becoming a student intern there, working for free, then eventually being offered a job. And then over a long period of time, Camila, not long, I mean, she's not that old, but over a period of time, Camila did a whole bunch of different jobs at Armour Dance Theatre, eventually becoming the executive director, which happened this year.
So jumping off that, because now we heard that, she found a place where, it kind of felt like home to her and she could also afford it. She reaches, executive director title. So let's talk about some of the comprehensive outreach programs that they're offering, because they do go beyond, the dance. It also features reading and homework. So talk a little bit about, the advantages of that program.
Well, I think one of the things that's impressive about the Armour Dance Theatre, and especially from a Ratcliffe perspective, is that they're innovative and entrepreneurial in the programs they've developed. So I'm aware of many arts organizations have outreach programs, but Armour Dance Theatre seems to be very comprehensive. And instead of making students come to them, they go to the students. So they set up like satellite programs in different school districts like Little Haiti, in Miami Gardens, in West Perrin, and places like that. Plus, they have the academy building that they own. So as people develop and blossom in talent as dancers, if they want to get serious and make a profession out of it, they can go to the academy and get more advanced but training. But in the meantime, when they're in their home areas and their neighborhoods, number one, besides teaching dance, they also, as you said, help the students with reading, with homework, with mental health. And the people that they employ to do that in the neighborhoods are from the neighborhoods. So they're known people within the neighborhoods, which makes it everything even more comfortable for the student. And I found that to be very innovative when I asked her if they were a leader in this kind of field in the United States, and do other programs model themselves after them. She said, well, there have been places like the YMCA for years, and the Young Women's Christian Association for years. But I think those are all destination places where people come to them to one place. And I find this to be very innovative.
So let's talk about something that I feel like this younger generation has a hard time doing. They like everything to be instant gratification. I want it now. I'm not going to work for it. In the next 15 minutes, I want to have 1 million followers on Instagram. So she talks about in this interview about delayed gratification, which you said to me, let's talk about that, because she talks about working towards a goal. And she uses, for example, a doctor has to put in the hours and the practice to get to where they want to be. So talk a little bit about what she means by delayed gratification in these times.
So I think you're right. I think this is I don't know if I'm sure it's just my lack of being attuned to what's happening, but the concept delayed gratification, I never quite heard it applied the way she did it. And I thought it was kind of brilliant that you, especially in something like dance, you don't become a great dancer overnight or taking a few classes. You got to really apply and learn step by step how your body adjusts to the different positions that get more complex, and the combination of things become more complex. So she not only likened it to, if you're going to be a doctor, you don't just become a doctor in 5 minutes. You have to go through all kinds of education. In her case, she was applying it. She was using Malcolm Gladwell's concept of you have to put in your 10,000 hours to be expert, that he talks about in his book, The Outliers. And it's about people like, he indicated the Beatles, for example, that they started playing together in Liverpool in these clubs when they were really, really young, and they put their 10,000 hours in. Or generally speaking, any professional athlete will have done something like that. So, so I like the idea that they're telling the students, you have to work at something in order to get good at it. And
I love that, because, even as we are here at the, Ratcliffe incubator with our current semester of students, and we evaluate all the process of the projects that they are trying to achieve, I see sometimes that I think they want some immediate gratification and immediate result. And I don't think they realize the backtrack, right? What it takes to get from point A to point B to point C to point D, somebody like myself, just a quick example, I started as an intern in the NBC Page program through FIU, and I ended up, by the time I graduated, already with a job at Viacom, but it took 4 or 5 years before I got there. So, it didn't happen overnight. It takes work, especially when you're in a media career, in an athlete position, in a dance position. It also takes a lot of work. And a lot of dedication, because you're kind of using your body, your whole spirit, your whole being to kind of do what you love. So I love that she came on and talked about, all those different things, and that she seems very mature to have this position as executive director. Is there any other takeaway that you want to share with us, Ray?
Well, there are two things, but I want to add to this concept of delayed gratification, that when people looked at Picasso's work as it got more and more abstract, and it's the old adage that people would say, oh, my kid could have done that, right? What they didn't see or know about Picasso, especially if they encountered him later in his career and in their own lives, was that he was an outstanding draftsman and conventional traditional painter when he was a kid. And his father was an artist and taught him how to be an artist, and he was outstanding at it. And he was so good that the story is that his father said, I'm never going to top my son, and he threw his own paints away. I don't know if that's true or not, but that was the story. So underlying all the things that Picasso did in his later career was the ability to do academic painting early in his life. So he mastered all that before he went on to taking away things that he thought wasn't essential. There's a great, sorry to get so long about this, but there's a great series of prints where he's started with the painting of a bull, and through the series of prints, he takes away things that aren't essential until there's less and less lines and shapes in the final print, but it's still the essence of a bull. And so I think that notion of underlying success in a career, there has to be the bones of of learning the traditional and academic stuff.
Oh, totally. I think that's also part of being an entrepreneur.
I agree.
So is there anything else you want to add before we finish this session of FIU Radcliffe with Inspicio Arts?
Well, the one thing I want to add is I was super impressed with Camila Gil and how articulate she is, and what a great advocate she is for Armour Dance Theatre. She makes me want to take up dance.
Definitely.
or maybe get help with my homework. I'm not sure.
I think that, their outreach programs, go beyond that. We said that, and, mental health is a real issue nowadays, and it's had a lot of attention. So I'm happy to hear that part of this outreach program does include some type of, initiative with mental health.
Yeah, especially in this time, obviously.
Yes, unprecedented times with the pandemic.
Right.
Well, thank you so much, Ray. It's been a pleasure connecting with you. We'll have another collaboration next week, so stay tuned.
Okay, thank you, Maggie. Have a
Thank
good
you.
week. Bye-bye.
You too.